Sonny Melencio. The State of the Nation address of President Benigno Aquino will be held on Monday. What can you say about this?
Well, this will be his second State of the Nation address after 1 year in government. But I think it's going to be more depressing than the previous one. Also precisely because of the situation that the economy is in at the moment. Because the previous State of the Nation address was right after he won the presidency, and he was very popular at the time. And right now, after 1 year in office, I think he has to really talk about his accomplishment or the problems that his administration is facing with regards to its delivery, especially of its delivery of basic services to the people.
So, what do you think is the problem in the economy?
Well, for one thing, the economy is still in a total mess, and that is precisely why during the SONA, the statement that we are going to bring during the SONA activity on Monday is that like a statement that was made by Clinton, President Clinton against George Bush, the senior. I think it was in the 1992 presidential election, where Clinton's campaign line was, "It's the economy, stupid," which is basically what we are going to say to President Benigno Aquino III, Noy Noy, that it's the economy, stupid. Because if you come to look at it, the basic problems that we are facing right now is the problem of rising prices, high prices of basic commodities, starting with oil, and then of course rice, and then on top of that, the problem of massive mass unemployment that is still not being addressed by the government. And thirdly, even those people with jobs are still also suffering from low wages. And I think the government has to say something about this, because it has not done anything to address this problem. Like for instance, in the case of rising prices, the government spokesman has said, and I think it was Lasierda, the presidential spokesman, has said that the government will not do anything to stop the rise in prices of basic commodities, because if they do that, that will bring that will only cause hoarding or a temporary shortage of the products, because the capitalists will just hoard their products. So we say, what kind of government is this that cannot implement a basic service for the masses just because the capitalist will hoard its products? And secondly, in terms of unemployment, there's also no program that has been done by this government to address the massive unemployment in the country, because the unemployment in the country right now, according to government figures, it's hovering between 7 to 8% of the labor force, but the underemployment is running at 18 to 19%. So put together, that would mean around 10 million of the Filipinos looking for jobs, and that's basically a big issue. But as one of the economists said from the University of the Philippines, I think it was the NEPA, the National Economic Protection Association, they said that the problem with the government of Noynoy Aquino is that it's continuing the 40 years of labor-intensive export policy, which has done nothing to resolve the question of mass unemployment in the country. And the same case is with regards to the low wages, meaning the government has not done anything to address this issue, because the recent wage increase has just this May has just given a measly 22 pesos increase in the cost of living allowance, not in the minimum wage, but in the cost of living allowance, which means that the salary scale of the Filipino workers is basically lower than the salary scale of our Asian workers, because like in countries which they say the wages are lower, like in Vietnam or China or in Thailand, there are there are social welfare benefits for the workers, and there are subsidies, but that is not the case in the Philippines. So I think the government has to account for this and has to, has to say something about what it's going to do to address these problems.
So, tell me, Ka Sonny Melencio, what do you plan to do during the SONA on Monday?
We are going to have a mass mobilization together with other forces. So the PLM, the Partido Lakas ng Masa, will be mobilizing in the street, and I think there will be a march from along Commonwealth going to the Batasan in order to bring the demands of the people to the State of the Nation address, where Noy is going to speak at the Batasan. And so we will be together with various organizations, such as organizations of labor, the BMP, Urban Poor, the KPML, the youth organizations, women, human rights, and each one of these organizations will be bringing with them the demands that have not been addressed by this government. Like, for instance, the problem that I mentioned about the rising prices of basic commodities, mass unemployment, the problem of low wages, the problem of demolition that is threatening many urban poor communities today and in the months ahead, and the human rights problem that has gone unchecked, meaning all these killings that are still happening and which the government is unable to do something about.
So, Ka Sonny Melencio, I heard you issued a challenge to the left on Noy's government. So, could you please discuss the summary of this?
Well, it's basically because there are sections of the left which are now in coalition with the Noy government, and I'm referring basically, for instance, to Akbayan, which is in a coalition partnership with the government and also with the government party, which is the Liberal Party. And talking with their leaders, I think the basis for this is it's a kind of strategy, it's a kind of tactics that is designed to shift the government into a leftward positioning with regards to several issues, because it's still a very popular government. They supported it during the election, and now that they've won, they've given some seats in the cabinet, for instance, and in various agencies of the government. And I think what they're trying to do in their tactics is to deliver some reforms within the government. But in our challenge, we are saying that we have to talk about this kind of reforms. What are these reforms that we really want to bring about under this administration? Is it really possible for this administration to undertake meaningful and substantial reforms? And could we start, for instance, with the basic advocacies that we in the left have been campaigning for in the last decades? For instance, campaign for the moratorium on foreign debt, so that the money that we are 40% for our budget that goes to debt repayment should be used for social welfare benefits. That is a major campaign that we have raised, and we have marched on the streets to push for that. So the main question is that, is it going to happen under this administration? What is the left doing with regards to ensuring that this campaign will be implemented under this administration? And there are other issues that each one of us in the left knows that we have been campaigning for, like, for instance, the repeal of the value-added tax, which is basically an oppressive tax imposed against the people, also because of this neoliberal paradigm that the government is undertaking. The scrapping of the visiting forces agreement, which makes the Philippines, like, continues the imposition of the U.S. military in the Philippine soil, precisely because of this visiting forces agreement that seems to be a replacement of the U.S. presence of the U.S. military bases in the Philippines before. And there are a host of issues, which also include, like, for instance, genuine land reform. And I think in that regard, the problem with this administration, with Noynoy Aquino himself, is that he has done nothing to implement even the lopsided comprehensive agrarian reform that was the cornerstone project of our mother, uh, uh, Cory Aquino. And in the case of Hacienda Luisita, up to now, the farm workers who are clamoring for a piece of land that they have toiled for decades and decades are not given to them, and there's already a massacre has happened in that place, and justice still has not given. And lately the Supreme Court has made a decision that is again for the benefit of the Aquino Cojuangco clan who owns the Hacienda Luisita. So but basically what we are saying is that the left in government should have a perspective. Are we going to defend this presidency which has just been implementing a neoliberal program?